What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the ALLSMITH Project. Today's guest is a global health ambassador. He's an educator, a content creator, and the founder of Organic Jaguar, which is a veteran-owned health and beauty company, the maker of this shirt, actually, and that shirt, quite frankly, as well. Today, I'd love to welcome Austin, a.k.a. Organic Tarzan. What's up, man?
What's up, dude?
Dude, I'm pumped to have you on. I feel like I've been following your stuff for a really long time, and I'm a big believer in primal living. And so today is going to be a really epic conversation, kind of peeling back the layers on your story.
Beautiful. I'm stoked, man. Let's get back to the roots, primal, you know?
Yeah, totally. Where did this all start? Like, you mentioned to me briefly offline, you grew up in Florida. But what was your childhood kind of like that really brought you into this association with primal living?
Well, during childhood, I definitely was outside a lot. I was playing in the dirt any chance I could to run around. My dad called me Monkey Boy growing up, climbing trees and stuff. Quite funny.
Awesome.
But I didn't realize that that wasn't like normal until outside of the Marine Corps, till I got into like normal adult life, and I got to see firsthand like, wow, not a lot of people move a lot, or they don't eat properly, or we're so lost from our primal, our roots. And it's like, for me, it's like back to the basics. We need to get in the sun. We need to walk more. We need to eat well. We need to just do things we were doing 100, 200 years ago that were thriving.
Totally. It's interesting, too, when you, just from an outsider looking in, observe traditional societal norms. And kids are sitting behind desks now. They're playing on screens. They're not riding bikes anymore. They're not doing somersaults. They're not wrestling. They're not throwing a ball. They're not kicking, screaming, causing a ruckus. I remember it was so hot where I grew up. We used to hop fences and jump into my neighbors' pools to kind of cool off. And I've heard you talk about that a little bit, which is like getting back to our roots and that being supreme wellness. And I think dogs are a great example of that. I mean, when I let my dog out, he goes out and uses the restroom. And then before I know it, he's chilling in the sun first thing in the morning. And I know Dr. Andrew Huberman talks about that. Like, hey, before coffee, expose yourself to the sun. Get some natural breath, like big breaths. Fill your belly. Get nasal breaths. Yeah, be big. Feel the sun. And hopefully some of these things that I'm kind of popping into your headspace are bringing up some tangible thought patterns. Like when I mention some of this stuff, what are some of the things that float to the surface for you?
I just think, and thank you for pointing all that out for sure, I think my morning routine looks a lot like that, which is huge. I think how anybody starts their day, it's kind of going to correlate to the rest of their day.
Totally. What is your morning routine?
It's 90% of the time it's the same thing. So I don't want to say every single day I'm dialed in. Like I'm about balance. Sometimes 10 days out of the year I won't make my bed. But most of the time I have a big routine, and it's first off, no phone for the first hour of waking. After I go poop, I usually every single morning, pretty easy for me with the bidet. I either do a little, like how I threw that in there. I either do a little like self-care with like skincare, whether it's shaving, but I always put beef towel on my face. I always put lotion on my body.
First thing in the morning after your morning restroom.
Yep, after that, because I'm already in the bathroom, so let's take care of shop while we're in there. And then brush my teeth, and then I'll come out of the bathroom, and then I'll go right into stretching, usually. And what's really nice is my bedroom gets a lot of sun, so I can stretch like while the sun's hitting me through like the window, which is really nice. After like 5 to 10 minutes-ish of like an active stretch, I have a nice porch that has sun. Again, I'm super lucky. San Diego, we have sun most of the year. And yeah, I get outside and get like 5 to 10 minutes of direct sunlight on my face. Once again, no phone. Then after that, I drink a lot of water with a little bit of salt in it, just to remineralize, rehydrate.
Do you use any salt products like LMNT or Relight or anything like that, or are you mostly just a pink Himalayan sea salt?
Yeah, so most of the time just regular, salt. I have Calcutta salt, and then I have some Redmond salt. But I'd like my buddy's brand, Santa Cruz Paleo. It's a salt-based electrolyte.
Very cool.
It's got magnesium, potassium, citric acid, all the good stuff in there. Based
on your knowledge, which I'm really excited to unpack today, I feel like salt gets a really bad rep. You know, old school research saying, salt is going to raise your blood pressure. And I'm more of a believer that like people need more salt, especially if they're eating real whole foods that are not processed and packaged and marinated with sodium just as preservatives. Can you help deconstruct that a little bit for people that have this predetermined thought process that like, too much salt's going to raise my blood pressure. That's not good for my health biomarkers.
Most definitely. That was pushed on us as propaganda about 20 years ago. We fought wars over salt. Like tea and salt, we've had wars over. Like that's how big of a deal that is. So if you're not eating a lot of processed foods that has a lot of BS sodium, you need more salt for sure. And when we sweat, we lose salt. Even just right here at rest, we are using sodium. So it's really important to replace that through a good quality salt. And then oftentimes if you're drinking a good water, it's better to remineralize it with more salt. You'll notice that if you add more salt and you're pretty dialed in with your sleep, with your diet, with working out, you'll have better pumps. You'll be more energized. Sometimes I'll get like a headache if I don't have enough water with salt. So maybe headaches go away, cramping less.
Yeah,
Salt's
totally.
really important for us.
You mentioned a good quality water, and I'm really excited to unpack this today, which is your incredible Organic Jaguar shower filter. I know water is very important to you. We have at my house like one of those Berkeley water filters, which is pretty cool. Can you help educate our community a little bit around just what's going on with tap water and what your thoughts are on quality water?
Love that question. Thank you, man. I think I'm known as the anti-tap water guy now. I feel like, which is hilarious. I love it.
Is that going to be the next shirt? Not just healthy, but just anti-tap water?
The next one is going to say grass-fed, grass-finished.
Well
all
played.
black, white letters.
I'll dig it.
Super sick.
We'll wear that on our follow-up episode.
I'm down, bro. I feel like we should have many. So I would love that. Okay, so tap water, we don't get fresh water from the mountains. You know, we don't have this water trickling down and it's going right into our faucet. It's just not possible. We have 20 million people in LA, a few million people in San Diego. How can you get that much fresh water to every single household? Well, you have to recycle the sewage water pretty much. And then you have to treat it. You have to treat it with things like chlorine and other heavy chemicals just to disinfect it. And then that treated water that's about 5 to 10 miles away from probably your house, so just a municipal system, has to go through decades-old piping. We're talking pipes that have been there since the 70s, the 60s. Rust, heavy metals, all that is in these pipes. They're not nice and shiny on the inside. They're not treated. Your tap water is then going through that, and then it's going to your faucet. So we have not only everything in the piping and the disinfectants in the water, but we also have birth control. Women are using birth control. They're peeing it out. That's getting recycled. We have pesticides that's leaching through the soil, going into basically our underwater basin, and then it's getting treated. There's a lot of contaminations. If you want to know specifically to where you're at, go to ewg.org/tapwater, and you can type in your zip code, and you will get a whole list of contaminants in your area. And then you'll also get a list of contaminants that exceed health guidelines.
Can you say that one more time for people?
Yep. So ewg.org/tapwater, and then you just type in your zip code. And it's wild. It's like here, my zip code in Pacific Beach, there's 30 overall contaminants. That's mind-blowing. And there's 16 of them that exceed health guidelines.
Wow.
These are things that most of them have potential effects to cause cancer or reproductive issue or endocrine issue. Like, this is not good.
Yeah.
And people are drinking this every single day. And this is like A-okay of our government.
Yeah.
I worked for the government in the Marine Corps, and it's like, I know the government doesn't have our best interest. And water is something we need to consume every single day. You might as well make it high quality.
For sure.
So
I love the awareness factor and the education. I mentioned that in your brief intro, that you are an educator and you do a very good job of taking complex ideas and scenarios and distilling them down for people to better digest and understand. But what I'm curious about now, man, is what are some of the actionables and solution-based orientation for people after they go to this ewg.com/tapwater, and now they understand, okay, there's a whole list of things that I'm potentially putting into my body. What are some of the suggestions that you have that people can use immediately that are low barrier to entry to enhance the quality of their life?
Most definitely. I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate the distillation comment, because I feel like I listened to Huberman and Saladino and all these guys, and they're so in the weeds. And it's tough to be like, okay, these doctors, but the average American doesn't have, like, how do they get that? How do they distill that information down into something that's tangible? So I appreciate that, and it takes a lot of psychology, a lot of brain power to be like, okay, how do I simplify this and like
Yeah.
put it into terms?
I also want to note real quickly for people listening, going back to your morning routine, it's not distracted. Like I was going to humbly ask, hey man, are you listening to something, a meditation, vibrational style music or something like that, that can potentially kind of get the juices going a little bit in your day? But you mentioned no phone. So it's like, okay, you're actually spending high quality time with yourself. You're playing psychological ping pong with a lot of these ideas. So when it does come time to play on the phone or listen to a podcast or have a YouTube video in the background, you're absorbing a lot of this information and then taking that information, combining it with your own level of knowledge, and then creating efficient parts of content that you can then share with the world. And that's not really easy, but it also means that you spend high quality time with yourself, which is a little bit scary to most humans in such a distracted world currently.
100%. We're so inundated with electronics, with stimulus, with DMs, with calls, texts, whatever. Everyone usually has a badge on their phone that says 99 plus or whatever they got. We're just so inundated. We don't get in nature. We don't get away from our phones. We don't spend time with ourselves. Most people don't even know what they truly like or what they don't like to do. They're just on a unconscious cycle, and they just are on repeat. And it's hard for me to spend time with myself. I feel like the morning time is my only time away from my phone. Sometimes, dude, I preach about being off the phone 30 minutes, an hour before bed. Dude, sometimes I'm on it 10 minutes before bed. And for me, even, I need to take like intentional breaks because technology's a lot, dude. We're not meant to be this connected. And it's like so funny how the more connection we have on the internet, the less connected we are to other human beings. And it sucks, bro.
That unique metaphor of like you, me, and a bunch of buddies can go out to dinner, but we're just buried here. We're not actually here. We're here. Yeah. And it's just an ideation for people to observe in their headspace. Going back to that question, what can people do, at least in their homes or in unique travel situations, to optimize their water situation so that way they're not indulging on some of these contaminants?
Stoked, dude. I love this. This is stuff I love to talk about. I love that you said traveling too. The shower filter is super easy to travel with. That's one thing that's very tangible. I'm going to talk about 3 different types of water systems that people can use in their home, and then I'll talk about traveling. This you can travel with and you can have it in your home. So I think it's really important, and mostly removes chlorine, which is a heavy disinfectant, really not good for our skin and our hair microbiome. So it's really, really good for just removing a lot of contaminants out of our shower water in general. $50, you install it. It's good for 3 to 4 months. You get a replacement filter, boom. Easy. So when I'm traveling, when I go to Mexico and stuff like that, oftentimes either the Airbnb will have like, they get in bottles that are shipped in that are good to go, or I have to buy, unfortunately, plastic jugs full of purified water. So every country is different. Now at home in America, what can we do? I think there's 3 main things, and I'll do most affordable to least affordable. Most affordable, you get a 5-gallon jug. You can get it with a handle, plastic, just make sure it's not in the sun, or glass. You take that jug, go to a grocery store. Most of them have this. They have the big old box thing that kind of looks like a fridge, and it's got like an empty hole in the middle. Refill the jug. It's 50 cents a freaking gallon for good water. Like, college students that are listening, do that. That is the most affordable way. I get that question all the time. And they clean these systems often, so it's A-okay. Next thing is the Berkey filter. I think for $150 to $200, get the fluoride-free filters as well to cut out the fluoride. Super important. That's the next. That's like mid-range. And then thirdly, get either a countertop reverse osmosis system or an under-sink reverse osmosis system. And then you're good to go. You're good to go for 6 months with those filters. Replace the filters for $50, boom.
Don't they also have companies that'll come to your house and install a reverse osmosis system?
Yeah, I think they do, and of course for more money, right? But,
yeah, totally.
Yeah.
But that water's so good.
So good, man.
I've had it a few times. I'm like, this definitely tastes different.
Yeah, it does, man. Oh, tap water's nuts.
What are your thoughts on if people are in the mountains or something, toss in iodine tablets? How do you feel about those?
You know, I'm not educated enough to know whether they're good or bad.
Yeah, a lot of my buddies that go out hunting or for weeks at a time on camping trips definitely like to use iodine tablets. And it's better than nothing, but I'm sure it's not as good as one of these fancy filters.
Is that to filter out water or filter?
Yeah, it's a tablet that you can put into the water that helps with the purification. And typically, I mean, they're mostly getting the water from a mountain anyway. And so I think it's just to ensure the safety and the cleanliness if an animal were to defecate or something happened into the water, something of that sort. Going back to your story, man, you've mentioned a couple times now being in the Marine Corps. How old were you when you made the decision to kind of go that route, and what was that experience like for you?
How old was I when I went that route? Well, dude, growing up, I've always wanted to be in the military. Like that, I just wanted to like serve my country. I wanted to give back. I was obsessed with like Band of Brothers, Saving Private Ryan, D-Day, all these war movies. Like growing up, like I didn't watch any other movies really. My dad let me watch them, even cooler. So I always wanted to be behind a gun. I wanted to serve the country. So I've had this in my mind. And then when I was in high school, things started to get real. I originally wanted to go in the Coast Guard. I went to one workout with the recruit depot, pretty much with recruits that were going to be shipped to boot camp at a certain time. One workout with the recruiters. I was like, yep, I want to be in the Marines. I want to be a Marine, like so bad. I just saw the level of attention to detail and excellence and just how they're that much better. And I was like, yep, sold. My mom hated that, cried her heart out for weeks. But yeah, I signed up when I was 17 years old.
Wow.
Pretty crazy. Yeah.
What was your experience like when you got there? Was it everything that you thought it would be in the story ideation and your predetermined thought pattern in pursuit of heading to the military?
Yeah, man. I mean, for me, I always dreamed of like what it would be like and how scary like boot camp would be and shit. And it sucked. It was pretty crazy. Like during it, you don't really realize it, but then when I get out, it's like, oh, bro, like 99% of people will never ever have like the amount of fear that was instilled in me, or the amount of push of mental breakthrough that I had to get through, or just the constant mental pain that they put you through, which is great. They strip you down to a piece of shit. Like
How did they do that? Describe that for people that have never been before. I mean, we've all seen some of the Navy SEAL movies. We've read some of the books. There's like an image that I'm sure people have in their head. Is it like that?
Yeah, it's more mental degradation. It's not. It's definitely physical for sure. You were getting broke the hell down like physically, but
How so? Through like bear crawls, not sleeping, cold, being in the surf, a lot of pull-ups, push-ups, running, rucking. What is it that breaks you down?
So the mental part was the drill instructors, them fucking with you and just make you feel like the biggest piece of shit ever to like walk this earth, and them just like grilling you, screaming at you, you're screaming back. There's sand getting kicked in your eye. They're fucking yanking you up and throwing you down, throwing foot lockers at people in the squad bay. Like just wild shit, dude. Like, you know, I'm not like supposed to say this, but like hurting recruits pretty bad, but it's good, dude, because I wouldn't want a wuss, to say this in the softest terms, a wuss next to me in battle.
Yeah.
Like
you want to know that you've done a hard thing with somebody or one of your brothers, and that when you're in a very, very difficult real life situation later, he or she's got your back.
Yep. And I'll just be honest, because when we're getting bullets flying over our head, it's all men. It's crazy, dude. It's wild, bro. So yeah, I want the brother to the next to me to know that they've been through the rigors to get there, and to know that when there's bullets flying over, like they didn't think about nothing else but the mission, like what's next. So it's pretty crazy. But yeah, it's the drill instructors that break you down, man. Like it's wild, dude. So
what's the sleep situation, the food situation like? Do they strip that away too, so that we don't have access to a ton of the tools of your like regular well-being?
Most of the time, you're getting decent sleep and you're going to bed. Probably like 9 p.m. You're waking up at 3:30, 4 a.m. And then if you have fire watch, where it's like you have to be up for an hour doing security, pretty much patrolling the squad bay or the couple areas of the barracks in general. But yeah, you're getting decent sleep. Now there is parts of the training where you're like at rifle week or the crucible or certain like weeks where they are stretching it for sure. And most of the crucible I didn't sleep. That was like a 4-day, I forget, but like a 4-day journey. But yeah, man, food, the chow hall, bro. The food at the chow hall, I don't know if I was that deprived of like endorphins, you know, like, but it was the best. It was the best. I think it's because the only thing I look forward to.
Yeah.
And it was, oh man, but
What was available for you guys there?
it was, I mean, whatever they were cooking up, man. And it was good stuff, a wide range of shit, but mostly like American food. But I feel like the food in boot camp was better than the food I had all of my active duty time, like actually in the fleet, like actually through my training, and it's like my regular job was the chow hall at like the base sucked. Like, bro, the chicken that you would get, it was the blandest, plain, driest chicken ever, bro. You had to put so much hot sauce on that thing for it to be like edible. Dude, it was horrible, man.
Do you think that experience led to why you're very passionate about food now and food quality now?
Yeah, I think so, because after that was like, okay, well, I had somebody cooking for me for 4 years. Now I got to cook for myself, and I don't like eating like shitty food. So quality and taste. So it's like, all right, I got to figure this out. So I just kind of figured it out and ate simply. And then I started to notice when I ate better, I felt better and I performed better, and I would act different and I'd be more happy. And it was just a reciprocation of good things.
Yeah.
Versus when I ate poorly, it was like easy to get in a slump and depressed and not want to move and not go outside. And it's wild, the compounding effect.
Totally. Move fast and break shit. LSKD develops functional sportswear with a streetwear aesthetic that's on a mission to inspire you to chase the vibe through sport, fitness, and adventure. I train daily in the rep shorts and love the versatility they offer. The zipper pocket is an absolute game changer. I go from training at the gym directly to meetings, running errands, or prepping for podcasts. The LSKD tribe has become true family, and we are excited to continue to develop our community. Shop now at lskd.com and use code ALLSMITH. We chase the vibe here at ALLSMITH. Let's all become 1% better every day. I hear that phrasing thrown around a lot, like when I eat good versus when I eat poorly. And you and I can literally type it into YouTube, like best nutrition advice. And there's going to be so much conflicting information. We recently had a nutritionist, E.C. Sinkowski, on, and she's not a big Paul Saladino fan.
Okay.
Some people really dislike the carnivore diet. And then we hear Rogan talking about the carnivore diet. We hear all kinds of doctors, Dr. Sean Baker talking about it being good. But then we also see the other side of the coin where, you know, we hear the vegan diet being pushed. We hear more vegetables, or the phrasing, eat the rainbow, or, you know, balance in everything. And then we hear grains are good for you. Grains are bad for you. You know, in the 90s, it was low fat everything. And now we're realizing, oh, fat doesn't really make you fat. Now it's just like understanding caloric input, understanding which things sit well with us. There's a lot of various Netflix documentaries as well talking about different areas within the world. And a lot of the Asian countries typically have the longest life expectancy, and they're eating a lot of various forms of fish and sushi, and they are eating white rice. And so I'm really curious your thoughts on this to try to debunk this, not just for the world, but quite frankly, I'm very curious as well. I'm always trying to give healthy advice to my mom and to my family. And it's like, where do I start? And it's so easy to say, just eat real food. Single ingredient foods is probably a great place to start, but that's not always sexy.
Yeah, it's not always sexy because the processed food, they designed to be addicting.
And convenient, right? You can just hit a couple buttons on a microwave and all of a sudden it's ready to go.
Or even Uber Eats.
Yeah.
Like just right to your
By
door.
the way, guys, delete like Uber Eats and those things, delete them off your phone.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to order from them, re-download the app and then have to order the food. Like I always say that, like with like bad foods in the house or a ton of alcohol, or with convenient food delivery services, if you're going to do it, A, do it in good company, and B, make it inconvenient where you have to go to the store, you have to go to the restaurant. Otherwise it's so easy. Man, I had a tough day, I'm gonna have a drink. Or man, that thing was really stressful, I'm gonna have this extra whatever. And I don't know, that's one thing that I know for sure. But all the other stuff, I'm curious your thoughts.
Yeah, dude, the convenience factor is big. If you buy it, you're more likely to eat it. If it's 2 steps in front of you versus a mile, 5 miles, whatever. So that's huge. I think exactly what you said, the single ingredient food. But for me, it's like most Americans, it's designed to be addicting. Processed food is just so easy. It's so much easier to eat a bag of chips than it is a whole potato. I think if we just get back to our roots and we eat things from the earth, no matter how much red meat is, how much fish, how much vegetables, this, and this, it's harder to go wrong when you eat things from the earth versus from a box or a jar or something with multiple ingredients. It's a lot easier to overindulge, overconsume that way. No, I'm a believer in like being intuitive with your body. Sure, I think there's a population of people that maybe veganism is better for you. Maybe your gut's that gone or whatever that's better for you. But I think a lot of people are so disconnected from how they feel when they eat a certain way to like their brain. So it's like, oh, why do I feel like crap? Well, dude, you just had 2 McDonald's and a large soda, and it's like, no wonder you haven't had any water today. You've had a Red Bull, and it's like a lot of people don't connect the fact that what they eat is a direct correlation to how they're going to feel. So be intuitive first off. But yeah, I think for instance, if we look at a lot of the countries that have the highest amount of red meat consumption, they're also the highest in longevity as well. Pretty crazy. So I think if we go back 100 to 1,000 years, what have human beings been thriving off of? Mostly red meat. We can't walk up into a field of kale and then like chop all the first off, like kale doesn't like grow wild. We couldn't live off of kale. But if we killed a deer or an elk and that lasted a year for us, we could literally live off that. Our whole family could live off that for a year. So it's funny to me that it's like the plant-based thing has grown so much. Big food, big agriculture, money,
And
follow the money.
I think you bring up a really good point, but then the contrarian in me also wants to say red meat wasn't as prevalent back then. So it actually took the total package, which I would encompass being the hunt, being the preparation, being the deep care for the animal, for the meat, trying to go nose to tail and use every element of the animal rather than just the convenience factor of red meat, which is so prevalent and available now. Because the argument I hear a lot of the time is like, well, what about the antibiotics? What about, the pesticide covered things that these animals are eating when they are alive, which is also another negative argument towards the vegan diet. It's like, how clean are these vegetables? How clean are these fruits? And so it ends up being incredibly confusing, especially for the baby boomer generation that's like trying to understand, okay, you made the comment, just eat from the earth. But the majority of these things based on mass production and the development of agriculture, are they really from the earth now? You have pesticides, you have things that are poisons being put onto these things to grow bigger. They look more fruitful. The strawberries are more red. We think they're more nutrient dense. They look sexy to the human eye. And then with meat, we're seeing food dyes. We're seeing things that they're using to try to preserve shelf life. It's so confusing to the modern day American that's just going to the grocery store. And maybe they are really trying to do a whole food diet. But just because it says whole food on the label, we don't know how this was generated over the course of time. What advice do you kind of have on that confusing situation?
Yeah, man. Yeah, all those are so super facts. And that food is still from the earth for sure, but do what you can. If you're a college student and it's hard for you to afford a lot of groceries a week, get that ground beef that's on special that week, or do what you can, because I see a lot of people, and I used to be this way, dude, is like I would be way too OCD with things. I would freak out if it wasn't dialed in, this and this. And it's like, now I'm just like, okay, I'm going to do what I can while I can. Like, dude, once a week, like I'll go to In-N-Out. I'll have ice cream. Like, I'm all about balance. And I think some people go too far in the weeds. Obviously, average Americans know. Like, they're so far from that. But just don't have balance with it. It's like there's so many conflicting things with plants, with red meat, with fish, this, and this. It's like, do what you can with what you got. And it's mostly with money. It's like, okay, if I can afford the organic this week, get it. If I can afford time-wise to go to the farmer's market and money-wise to go to the farmer's market, do it. Like, but a lot of people don't know where to go. They don't know where to start. And yeah, man, I mean, that's mostly what I talk about on my channel. It's like better alternatives. Here's something that's good. Here's something that's bad. This is how you source the good. This is how you look out for the bad.
Yeah, I think you do a really cool job of that. And what I also really appreciate is just seeking those 1% better choices, right? Like, it's not always going to be the best, but you can do it better than you're doing it now. And then doing like that inner work and that self-reflection around, how do I feel? What is my sex drive like? What does my skin look like? How do I feel on the day-to-day? Am I depressive? Am I anxious? Do I have optimal thought clarity, or do I feel a little bit of brain fog? How do my joints feel? And just kind of doing like a personal assessment from the feet all the way up to the head, just like gradually kind of going through that step-by-step process. And that's the joke I always make about like biohacking. I love biohacking. I put a sauna and cold plunge at my house. I love sharing it with my friends. I use it frequently. I'm all about regenerative agriculture and doing all the right things. But guess what? You also need to do the other stuff. You need to have a glass of wine sometimes, or have a little bit of ice cream or the other things. You know why? Because if you're so married to like perfection, you're actually, according to Dr. Andy Galpin, you're precious. You're easy to kill. You're also like really easy to beat, because if you have to every single time have that 9 hours of sleep, or you have to every single time have that, 90-minute morning routine, I'm going to beat you.
Yep.
And I think that's a really good takeaway for people today is like, yeah, we can strive to be as consistent as possible. We're going to strive to make the best food choices possible. But we can also operate if we don't have that. And I think that's like a recipe. Like when you do it so consistently, like 80 to 90% of the time, you grant yourself those levels of buffers for when you can either want to fuck off, or when you need to, when life circumstance forces you to. Because life's going to happen to all of us.
Yep.
1,000,000%,
bro. Like life gets lifey. I've heard that, and I was like, that's so funny. Yeah, dude. I preach balance, man, because I see too many people married to the more intense side. And it's like, dude, enjoy that glass of wine, enjoy that date with your girlfriend, enjoy going out and having a nice cocktail or whatever, it's like, or going to In-N-Out or Chipotle. Like, life is about balance, and if you're too freaked out in the freaking head, you can't even enjoy your own like health, because you're too worried about not being in it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's too scary.
Now the optimal tools are not actually helping you. They're making you a slave to them. Oof. And you're not operational unless these things are consistent in your lifestyle. Like if you can't hit a workout without doing like an hour of mobility, then it's like, okay, maybe we need to like back off the workouts and do a little bit more self-care. Maybe we do need more rest. Maybe we do need a little bit of sauna and cold therapy. Maybe we need to play with a little bit more yoga and kind of find that middle ground, the right dosage for everybody. You briefly mentioned Chipotle. I want to jump into the conversation of seed oils. That's something that gets kicked around a lot in the nutrition space. I've read a little bit and heard, unless it's changed recently, but they cook the majority of their things with canola oil, from my understanding. What's the whole seed oil debate?
Yeah, so seed oils were started as a machine lubricant, and then a mega conglomerate got a hold of it and was like, oh wow, we can use this to feed people and make a lot of money off of. So they're taking a byproduct, something that humans have never eaten until about the 60s, 70s, and that's when it was first introduced. And obesity has skyrocketed since then. It's pretty wild to see. But it's something that's extremely inflammatory. It's high in linoleic acid. It's not good for our gut. It's got fats in it that's really hard for us to digest. It has a lot of omega-6. We want omega-3s as human beings. We want like a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to omega-3s, and it throws it way off. So it's something that's not natural to us. Healthy fats like avocado, olives, butter, these things have been around for like hundreds of thousands of years, and it's so good for us. But when seed oils were introduced, you see the climb in our history of obesity. And it's pretty scary stuff, man. And it's literally in so much things. Yeah,
it's really hard to find stuff that doesn't have some sort of seed oil in it. But it's also, seed oil is like this big umbrella. And there's a series of oils that come underneath that: vegetable oils, canola oils. What are some of the other ones that people should probably stay away from?
Yeah, rice bran, safflower, sunflower oil, rapeseed oil. Rapeseed, that's such a wild name, but that's the other name for canola oil. Yeah, pretty much those big 5 right there. And then, don't look for that. Look for olive, avocado, or butter. Like, that's all you really need.
Do you recommend cooking with avocado oil, or do you recommend most people cooking with grass-fed butter?
You can do either of those three really and be just fine. I think it's based on taste. If you're worried about if grass-fed butter is, you know, too much saturated fat or whatnot, do olive oil, do whatever you like, but do one of those three.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
How do you feel about avocados and avocado oil and kind of coconut meat and some of these things?
Great. They're good fats. The saturated fats are really good for us.
Nice.
Yeah.
So kind of digesting some of this personally, one of my favorite education pieces that I pulled from early on was The Primal Blueprint by Mark Sisson. I'm a big fan of his. He's a little bit older now. I think he's in his late 60s or early 70s. He previously lived in Malibu for a very long time. Previously was there and then moved to Florida sometime within the last 5 years. He created the Primal Blueprint, the Primal Prescription, and I think most notably some of their newer, like they have like an avocado-based mayonnaise and things like that. And you probably see them in Whole Foods. But what I really loved is he had these like 10 laws of primal living. And then he also had a prototypical caveman, which the way he describes him is very similar to you. Doesn't wear shoes, very much is grounded, likes to move frequently. Like the next position is probably the best one. Like sitting is probably closer to smoking. Yeah. You know, he talked about move often at a slow pace, sprint every once in a while, lift heavy things a couple times a week. And he was one of my favorites early on because it was so simplified to better understand how to live. And at that time, it very much resonated post-basketball, where I was abusing a lot of sugar for performance and just trying to make it to my pillow at night and try to score points on the court. And he talked about very similar to what you did, which is things started to change with the onset of agriculture and people wanting to use food directly relatable to capitalism. And you know, everybody wants to make money. I get it. But how do we, instead of just bitch and moan about the system, what are your thoughts about how we can provide solution-based conversation that are actionables, not just for ourselves, but for the government to then mass produce while simultaneously providing the highest quality nutrient density to our communities and population?
I think the only way we can do that as an average consumer is to vote with your dollar. I think that's the only way, because if you get in front of a town council, your voice not be heard, your voice may not be heard. It's like, if we vote for our dollars and we change the way that the supply and demand is, for instance, if you have the money and can afford it and you really like high quality meat, getting a regenerative source like perennial pastures. It's like, if you spend your money in a good way and other people start to do the same thing, then these big companies like Tyson and I don't even know conventional freaking meat companies, but if we stop paying into them, they get smaller and smaller and smaller, and the pie gets bigger and bigger and bigger for high quality companies. So I think that's the only way. What do you think?
I like the way you said to vote with the dollar. I think the other thing that's challenging is, like, we're good friends with the crew over at Perennial Pastures. I'm a big fan in regenerative agriculture as well, and I want to dive into that in a second, but most people don't know what that is because it's not in your traditional grocery store. It does take a couple extra steps to then go to your local farmer's market. But I think it's these types of conversations that can then diffuse into a domino effect of supplemental conversations later. And then that leads into community-style conversations. Hopefully that bleeds into the education system where our kids are better understanding. But I think the challenge arises when it's like, to mass produce regenerative agriculture is hard. It's a lot of work. And before we dive into that conversation, can you help define to our listeners what is regenerative agriculture and how are the cows moving to a different demographic so they're not just marinating in their own shit?
Most definitely. Yeah, regenerative agriculture is the way we used to do farming and ranching. It's the way our great-great-grandparents saw ranching and farming. So it's literally getting back to our roots. And now we've become so married to capitalism that conventional industrial beef is 90%, if not more, the beef you see. And grass-fed regenerative meat is pretty much to where these cows have a big plot of land where they're on grass, they're grazing open plains, and they're set to like a 5 or 10 acre plot. And then whenever the farmer thinks that, okay, they've ate enough of this grass, they pooped on the land enough, I'm going to rotate them to the next plot. And then that grass that was just pooped on gets to regenerate. The soil and the ground gets to regenerate, the water, all that. And the cows that are on this next plot get to do the same thing. And it's just a beautiful rotation, and it's really healing for the earth, for our air, for our soil. It's how we are meant to live. It's the cycle of life. It's the real way to farm.
I like the way you said that. I also want to note for people, we as humans can learn a lot from travel. When we go different places, different cultures have different foods, different languages, we learn a lot. It opens our eyes to, whoa, I didn't actually have this perspective previously, but I do now. While simultaneously giving respect to the earth and not abusing the privileges and all the beautiful nutrients that it provides. And so I think it's a win-win there. I think the challenge then becomes, it's really hard to move and wrangle all the cattle and move them on to the next space. It's very expensive to do so. It takes a special human like Kevin Muno, the founder of Perennial Pastures, to be like, you know what? I felt the difference when I was playing high-level baseball, when I ate real food. I want to share this mission with all my teammates. Wow, it helped them too. Now I want to share it with all my friends and family. Whoa, now I want to have a global impact doing this same exact thing. And it's incredibly courageous, honorable, and expensive. But it also is something that I think if we talk about it more and then donate with the dollar and expend our resources as a community and as a whole to do those things, now these brands have a higher access to funds to do more greatness. Now their plot of land actually just expands and gets bigger. Now they can bring in more cows. Now they can do more, be more, share more, innovate more, and positively impact more. And I really like the way you said that. I think that's going to have to be the future of meat. What are your thoughts on how to better represent the vegetable side of things? That one's tough.
That's, by the way, that's the real way of how capitalism was meant to be ran. Was one person makes a better product, and then another person makes a better product. And we rise and rise and rise and rise.
Competition is good for everybody.
Versus now, capitalism is like, how do I make it cheaper? How do I make it less expensive? How do I make it cheaper? And it's a race to the bottom. And I feel like you spend your money in a way, and I spend my money in a way with companies that have high quality stuff. We don't need the run-of-the-mill stuff, the average stuff, where it's like everything on Amazon from frickin' Alibaba, and it's like cheap as hell, versus we got to spend our money on something that isn't that cheap. But guess what? We're voting with our dollar, and once again, we're rising up. Not only our health, but that company gets to rise with us. The more we spend, boom, 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 boom. So that's the original way capitalism used to work, and that's how I run my company. Is I make a damn good product, and it just level up, man. I don't ever want to race to the bottom. So sorry to go off on that tangent.
No, I really appreciate you saying that. It's also just, it's insight as to what we're doing here too, right? It's not about trying to find ways to make it cheaper. It's like, how do we put out a good product? How do we be as authentic as possible, at least with the knowledge that we have at that point, to push forward innovative conversations, bring on thought leaders and founders that are doing great things. I mean, it'd be easy to just float around and have a conversation with any Joe Schmo that's making a ton of money or has a huge social following. Like, that's not the game. The game is do the next right thing. But it's so hard in a space, like, let's just jump to the conversation of healthcare. We just watched the recent Super Bowl. We saw Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. Travis Kelce was a Super Bowl champion. Played a great game, had a great season. Arguably one of the greatest tight ends to do it. Has recently, this year, at least to my knowledge, formed a partnership with Pfizer. And we've seen the relationship of Taylor Swift with her music being owned by George Soros. And that whole thing, and then the behind-the-scenes potential conspiracy, potential truths around the connection there to the government of those two. A part of me wants to say, all right, like, the writing's on the wall, like, I have my personal feelings about this. But then to play devil's advocate, if I interviewed 1 million people and said, hey, if you make this choice to advertise this product, and you're then going to generate generational wealth and legacy wealth where you're not just providing for you and your immediate family, but when you're long gone, you're actually leaving something behind for your kids, your grandkids, and the future of your legacy. That's tough. That's like the conversation of the red pill or the blue pill.
Right.
Right? So it's like, if we're going to paint the picture, rather than just like jumping in and only seeing it one way, I like to try to like see the whole thing. Like, let's paint both sides of the picture. Let's tackle all of this in one, because it is a very unique scenario. I don't know them personally to have a fair assessment, but I definitely have some thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, man, it's tough because, yeah, psychology-wise, it's like, yeah, it could be set for generations. It's pretty crazy. But then your ego and your soul, do you sell out? Like,
yeah,
it's, you know, I lean in my current position to definitely not selling out. And I feel like they both, before the money, they had a ton of money. He was making like 25 mil a year. Lord knows how much Taylor Swift makes, way more than that. But it's like, what difference does 100 million make versus 400 million? I don't know, man. I wouldn't. Would you sell out? I mean,
the Trident family taught me something really important this last year, that we are all a bundle of stories, both good, bad, and everything in between. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. I start my day with the Sweet Cream Cold Brew as I am prepping my mind and body for fitness, service, coaching, and podcasting. With various locations in San Diego, they offer over 14 nitro cold brews and a variety of specialty drinks. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from the Keto Bakery. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code ALLSMITH to take your coffee experience to the next level. I would absolutely not sell up, but you know what poses the question? Have you ever watched The Blacklist before?
no, I've not. I don't even own a TV.
That's smart. We'll jump into that in a second. So it's this unique show where it's like we have the list of America's Most Wanted, of the people that we know. But then behind those people are the real, leaders and the people that are kind of playing the game and calling the shots. And what I wonder is, like, when we have forward-facing people like them that get all the notoriety but also get a lot of the backlash, I don't know, like, what was that conversation? Were there threats? Were there non-threats? Like, what is that type of conversation? I always wonder that in politics, too. It's like, rather than me just jumping in saying, that's a horrible person, they made a bad choice, they sold out, I want to know the specificity of that conversation. Yeah. And that's like the contrary of me, where it's like, I see you did a bad choice, but I also want to know why, and I kind of have the compassion to understand why, but I still hate your decision.
Yeah, man, there could be the FBI, the big 3-letter agency behind closed doors, like, you got to do this. You got to do this or there's nothing else. And obviously we've seen over the past decades that there's been some sketchy government things that have happened. Of course, they don't have the best run. So, yeah, pretty wild. I totally can see the way that you paint the picture now. It's like, oh, there could be some weird backdoor stuff, and it's, maybe not Travis and Taylor being the ones that make these decisions.
Maybe there's
fully.
Somebody else behind the scenes, and like,
I'm sure
I keep hearing the mention of the name George Soros. And like, when you put him into Google, it's one narrative. When you put it into DuckDuckGo, it's a different narrative. So it also just raises my eyebrows around some of these controversial thoughts that, like, it goes back to that conversation we had with nutrition. There's so much conflicting information out there that it's trying to force people to pick sides. Are you left-wing? Are you conservative? Are you liberal? Where do you fall on the spectrum? And it's like, I don't know. The reasonable answer is probably somewhere in the middle.
Right.
I find it hard to believe people believe everything on one side or the other. And I think that's like the game that's being played. Are you here? Are you here? And it's like, I don't know. Like, why don't we just talk about trying to do the next right thing? And then let's define the right thing as let's try our best to eat things that come from the earth. Let's be grounded. Let's connect with the sunlight. Let's treat people appropriately. Let's try our best to do diligent business that's honorable and not trying to screw somebody over. And I mean, everybody says business is war without bullets. And I mean, I see that a lot, and it doesn't have to be that way. I think, like, if you're doing honorable business and you're receiving a good product, you should actually want to pay for a good product. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of ways to kind of bounce this back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack. I want to bring it back, though. I think regardless, no matter when they made the decision, Travis and Taylor, it's mind-blowing to me that there's only 2 countries in this whole world that allow for big pharma to advertise on public TV.
That's the U.S. and New Zealand, right?
Yep.
Yes, I've seen that.
Ridiculous. I mean, what were the categories of commercials in the Super Bowl? There's
a lot of beer commercials.
Alcohol, fast food, processed food, and big pharma.
Yeah.
That's like the main ones. Those aren't healthy.
Yeah.
What are we doing to our Americans? And like the Biden commercial going over all the processed food. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This is our example. Like, this is what we're doing right now. It's honestly pretty scary.
It is.
Like, I know you see through it, and it's scary, bro. I'm like, where are we heading as a world? I'm just like, I feel like we're going to have like the connected and the unconnected, the disconnected.
Yeah.
That's eventually what it's going to be like. You're going to see people walking around Sprouts with Apple Vision 10X by then. And then there's going to be people that are living in the woods.
Yeah.
And never want to see any piece of technology.
Yeah, it's creating a lot of divide for sure. I also think kind of what you talked about with the connected versus the non-connected. It's not just about money. It's also just pattern recognition, in my opinion. If you can pay attention to the patterns, you very much see like, oh, this actually is not healthcare, it's sick care. And I think the majority of what I observe in the American lifestyle is we spend our health in pursuit of money, and then later on spend our money to regain our health.
Wow.
Right? And that's not my quote. Somebody way smarter than me came up with that one. But it's one of those instances that I really believe that people think that their health is a quick fix. Hey, you hurt yourself, just get surgery. You'll be back in no time.
That's what they advertise.
Right? And it's like, my father was like a walking testimonial for that. Like when he had a blood clot go through his heart in 1980, they prescribed Vicodin. And then, over the course of time, anytime he had a surgery or there was pain, it was like Oxycontin. And then through brain surgery, it was Dilaudid. And like, these are highly addictive formulas. And like, they hand them out like candy without the education of like, hey, here's how you wean off of this. They are so quick to prescribe, but they don't ask, hey, what is your lifestyle like? First thing in the morning, you might be anxious because you're jumping straight to the phone. You might be having a hard time because instead of filtering and funneling to the adenosine system with a little bit of salt water or a product like Element Tea or something like that, you're now jumping straight to, oh, man, I'm groggy. I got to hit double dose of caffeine today, extra espresso shot. Now you're spiked up. The traditional American breakfast is what? Blood sugar spike, right? It's sitting there with some sort of sugary croissant. It's not protein and fat that's going to kind of get you going and satiate you. It's like, hey, I got to get this hit.
Yep.
Now we're rolling. We're getting shit done. We're making money.
Hold on, you got to take your ADHD medicine and then also your depression medicine because you're feeling jittery and anxious from the 300 milligrams of caffeine you just took.
Yep. And then what happens? You get the big blood sugar crash. And now midday, you're left with, why do I feel like crap? Let me hit it again. And now it's another, caffeine hit, potentially other substances.
A sandwich from Subway or whatever.
Because it's quick, it's convenient, and it's an efficient delivery system. And then all of a sudden, on the end of the day, it's like, man, I was so stressed today. I was stressed about being stressed. I didn't feel good. My deposits to the restroom were like forced and were not fluid. I'm not educated and I'm not taking the appropriate supplements. So then as a byproduct to wind down and disassociate, I need alcohol.
Yep.
I get a pound, whatever alcohol I'm pounding. That way I can have an altered state of consciousness. And then at that point, it's like, why can't I fall asleep? I need to watch shows, or I need some sort of dopamine hit on my phone, or I need some sort of retail therapy. I'm going to buy something quick, easy, efficient. It's going to be delivered on my doorstep and feel like Christmas tomorrow.
What about I haven't moved all day either? What about I haven't seen the sun? I haven't grounded. I've been on concrete all day or carpet all day. I haven't spent any time with myself.
And you know what's funny about all of this? And it's not funny. It's actually scary.
It's sad. It's fucked.
It's scary that I know all of these things, and I'm very fortunate to work in a gym space where like part of my job is to move and connect. But there are moments where I get into this too.
Same.
Like, I'm not above this.
Same.
Like, I'm also a victim to my own poor choices. And so it's like, there are moments where I just like call myself out, like, hey man, get your shit together. Like, if you're going to preach this to people, you got to live the part too. And it's few and far between because I speak about it so frequently and my tribe of friends is so active in doing things. And that's another one that I want to share with you and others. And you're fortunate to have an incredible friend group, but it's like, if you're struggling to make these choices personally, get around the people that are making these choices. And then inevitably it's going to like diffuse and bleed into you. And all of a sudden you're going to start becoming like the 5 people you spend the most time with.
That. Huge.
Right?
Yep. That quote has always stuck with me. You resemble the top 5 people you hang around. Huge. Yep. And dude, it's all about our habits too. And bro, I'm not above it either. I get stuck in the cycle sometimes of the algorithm or on my phone too much because that's work. And I get caught like just scrolling and stuff. So believe me, these are designed to be addictive. Like even like Apple's kids, like they don't even freaking use iPhones and stuff like that. It's pretty funny. It's scary because we have discipline, we have awareness, but yet most people don't. Most people are consumed. They're in that unconscious cycle, dude, and it's scary.
Yeah.
Where we're going as a society.
No,
That's why I do what I do, and I'm sure that's why you do what you do. It's like we want to stay ahead of that curve, and we want to help other humans do the same thing.
Well, here's the other thing, man. At the pinnacle of my basketball career, where I felt like, man, I'm scoring the most points, I'm doing the thing, getting the most validation, I didn't feel good, man. Like, I felt inflamed, and I ended up developing like certain like eczema stress rashes on my inner armpits, on the elbow folds of my arms, like behind my knees. And dude, I was consuming too many different types of protein bars. I was having all kinds of processed energy drinks to make it through 5, 6, 7 hour practices. I was eating the Subway and the pizza and the processed carbohydrates because it wasn't negatively affecting my body composition. My thought process was like, hey, what can I get away with? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. My performance is good, perfect. Nothing else matters. And it wasn't until that came to a conclusion where I had to be with myself for a while and try to figure out what was next that I came across Mark's Daily Apple, which was the blog that I followed from Mark Sisson, later reading his book. And then from there got introduced to Rob Wolf and, you know, the paleo solution, and then understood the CrossFit prescription of nutrition, which is eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. It's not perfect, but it definitely put me down a slightly different path of like, okay, I'm going to start going to 1 CrossFit class a day. I'm going to take the dog for a walk at natural sunlight. I'm going to try my best to get 8 hours of sleep. No phone first thing in the morning. I'm going to hydrate as much as possible. At that time, I didn't know a lot about different forms of water filters and water quality. And then the majority of my nutrition was honestly like meat and fruit, which is something that Paul Saladino talks about a lot, and we can discuss him in a second. But the irony there, if you just looked at that, and I use myself as just a dummy or an experiment, the rashes went away. I lost body fat and got leaner and more vascular. My energy went way up. My mood went way up. Sex drive went way up. And all of a sudden, how I oriented with the world was a lot more fulfilling and pleasurable. It wasn't like waking up in the morning and like, oh, man, that walk to the bathroom, everything hurts right now. Snap, crackle, pop. And I think paying attention to those signs and, like you said, the awareness, it sounds so cliche and easy. Like, pay the fuck attention. But it's like, really pay attention. What is your morning stool? Are you sitting there like straining? Is it not a clean, efficient poop? Are you sitting there wiping for a half an hour? Like, are you doing things that then should be like red flags in your daily lifestyle? Do you have acne all over? Like, what's going on? How's your thought clarity? Are you not able to pay attention and be focused? Like, these are all signs or whispers that the body's giving us. What advice do you give to people to like start that habit of just paying attention and being able to do like a self-dialogue? Is it a journal practice? Is it something that, you know, you suggest that's worked for you or maybe for others?
That's a great question because, yeah, it's like, it's easy to say pay attention, but a lot of people don't know what that means. And it's like, our body gives us these markers, right? Like, we'll get acne or get flare-ups or joint pain, or you just feel like crap and you're mad at the world. Our body gives us these markers, but a lot of people are so dull to the notifications that it's not even heard, it's not even seen. What's worked in my life, I would say, really tapping into my body has been yoga, has been just an easy 5-minute guided meditation, has even been talk therapy where I'm having to like sit with myself and my own thoughts, like journaling and stuff like that. Just being more conscious, being more aware of all my daily habits or my whole life in general. Those have been really helpful. And I think yoga for me kind of got me in a lot of a self-awareness journey because it was the first time I was off my phone. I was having to listen in detail to an instructor and just like focus on the next movement or the pose and hold it there and be in something that was uncomfortable and then just sit there and breathe through it. And then I was being aware like, oh, wow, my calf kind of feels tight on the right side but not on the left. Or, oh, my left shoulder, I can't really raise it like that high compared to like my right side. And it's like I was first able to like tap into my body.
What I love about that is it's being on your mat, and it's a comparative analysis of self. Left, right, upper, lower, front, back, as opposed to what we do with that little device, which is, how do I compare to that guy? How do I compare to that girl? Why is their business better than mine? Why do they have this traction? I don't. It's not external, something that's out of your control, but it's going internal. And I've observed that with you in our limited, friendship in the last, few months. You're very prideful on your inner work, and you've done some really cool men's groups. And like, I'm positive on this podcast, I talk about it often. Men need other men.
Yeah.
And I just actually had a call with a gentleman that I've done some work with in the past that he's creating a brand. And something that he was talking about is like, most men are loved for their function, for what they do and how they provide, not who they are. And I've said it before that when I've been fortunate to connect with the tribe associated with Deepak Chopra, he was like, Bryce, we're not human doings, we're human beings.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts on that? And how is your inner work journey from being this high level military man to transitioning to a corporate person to then transitioning to entrepreneurship?
I'd love to hear more about that tribe, by the way. That sounds really cool.
Yeah.
I was very unaware coming out of the Marine Corps. I mean, I was very dull to feelings and emotions because that's how you're trained. When you have bullets flying overhead, you're not worried about if your knee hurts or if you just got broken up with or whatever. You're worried about the mission and you making out alive. So I was very dull to emotions, good and bad, just flatline. And my own relationship with myself and others, that's not good. I was so disconnected from everything because I was just like blank face, just like a robot almost.
I don't feel emotion. I just need to do the task.
Just do. Yep, just do. And like you said, external validation. So that's something I struggle with as like a young kid getting bullied. And then I go in the Marine Corps and I get validated for being fucking fit, super like high performance, and just being a Marine in general. And then I get out of the military and I have nothing to label myself with. I have nothing to validate myself with other than looks. And so I did that for a while. And then I was in a really nice relationship with this conscious woman, and we had to break up because of my fault, my own doing. And that was like the start of the inner work for me. Was like a really, really hard breakup. And I was like, okay, I'm either going to repeat these patterns or I'm going to look myself in the frickin' mirror and do something about it. She was gracious enough to have a long conversation with me, being like, hey, if you go to therapy, you can be helped out on this, this, and this. And like, you get external validation from this, and like, you have body image issues, blah, blah, blah. She was kind of like running down a whole freaking list. I'm like, damn, I have that much stuff wrong with me.
What's honorable though, Austin, is that you were in a place where you deconstructed self, where you were able to receive those things. You didn't put up a shield, right? You were like, okay, up until this point in my life, what I'm doing isn't working. And I think a lot of people should listen to that element right there, is like, you have your own lens on self, but then there's other people's lens on you. There's maybe a bird's eye view. There's so many different views on self that, like, I don't know, there's varying opinions. So to listen to an external opinion that you don't know, it's data. Doesn't mean you have to agree with everything on that list,
Right.
but it means like, well, I'm going to take this in, and then I'm going to better myself based on this data.
Well, it's like you were saying, it's like a lot of men, especially in society, it's all performance based. It's all we got to perform to get any sort of validation instead of like who we are on the inside. Are we a good ass human being? do we do right? Do we do right by others, ourselves? It's like, that's not really validated in culture anymore. So yeah, for me, it's like I could have either played victim, or I could ride in the driver's seat of my own life and take control and do something about it. And yeah, a lot of people play victim now because it's easier. It's easier to blame somebody else than it is to, oh, Austin, you majorly effed up. You could have had a really good relationship, and so glad I did, because I've had trials and tribulations, and now I'm a way better person because of it. But if it wasn't for that mess up, and it wasn't for me looking in the mirror and saying, hey, I got to change, or I'm just going to repeat these patterns, then I would have been the same person. I wouldn't have been here talking to you today, that's for sure.
For sure.
So
how you get here is not how you get there. Right? And it takes levels of disruption to then reset, recalibrate, and then upgrade the operating system. And it sounds like you needed that to deconstruct thought patterns and habits to then reintegrate yourself into the world. And then you realized, oh, wow, I actually need to keep doing this. And that, like, inner work doesn't just stop. It's kind of like when I chat with people about weight loss, it's like, hey, if we do this exercise prescription for the next 6 weeks, and all of a sudden you've lost a ton of weight and you look great for 6 weeks out of your life of 80 years, does it really fucking matter? What matters is that you develop habits and the tools and the education to do these things for the rest of your life. And I think that's what I'm hearing from you, and what I observe from you is, like, you didn't just be like, okay, I'm going to do this so I can just get my business to this level and then have an exit. Or I didn't just do this so I can find the next girl and then stop. It's like, it's not only who you are, but then you share it with other people around your tribe, and you magnetize those types of people towards you, and you push away the people that are kind of going the opposite direction purposefully and respectfully, which is great. And that's what I think is important about the inner work, is it is a process. It's a communication between finite and infinite rules. Finite rules are, I'm doing this inner work so I can get the thing and then I'm done. Versus your game is, I'm playing the game so I can keep playing. Right? And that's actually the game of life. And I'm curious, like, what's been like a huge breakthrough for you in therapy, and what advice would you give to other men that are maybe like, hey, what I'm doing isn't working. I want to take that step towards, you know, whether it's therapy, whether it's somatic work, whether it's taking the pen to paper and doing a brain dump for 5 minutes each morning and doing some journaling, which all of these things I've participated in, and they've been record breaking for myself.
Yeah. I would suggest whatever someone's willing to stick with for a while, because what worked for me might not work for somebody else. That's for sure. But there's so many different healing modalities. But one, I think it starts by being consistent. Like, you can go to therapy one time, but that's not going to make or break you. But you do it 20, 30 times like that, you're going to get some freaking traction. Much like journaling, much like doing a guided meditation, or going to sound healing or yoga or whatever. It's like, be consistent with it. Whatever you do start doing, go all in. Because if it wasn't for my consistency, like, I would have effed off and gone, like, not done it at all. So go in on yourself. We are the best investments. Like, I'm the best investment I can make is in myself. So I'm only going to raise the vibe of myself and other people I attract. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So I'm a big believer in that. But for me, talk therapy has been the most helpful thing. It's actually been almost life-saving per se. It's like, I went through like 4 therapists from who I found right now. It's actually a lady in San Diego. I love her. Her company's called Inner Peace, and it's been revolutionary for me. It's been so good for me to get over a lot of the self-limiting beliefs I had, and a lot of the inner child work and trauma, and a lot of the things I grew up in my childhood. By no means was, and I don't even want to compare it, because comparing is not okay, but for me, someone in Cuba or a third world country or whatever, it's like, I had it a lot better, of course, but there's things in my childhood that have happened that have developed my brain in a certain way to think or believe a certain way about myself, and like, reprogramming that over time is super beautiful. And I think no matter what in life, it's always good to have somebody looking at your life that's educated in that area from a 30,000 foot view, and they have your best interest in mind, whether it's with business, freaking physical performance, mental performance, whatever. It's always good to have a mentor that's done it or is trained to train you in that area. So no matter what, like, I definitely believe that's good. But for me, talk therapy has been the most revolutionary thing for inner work.
That's great. Coaches need other coaches. And I think it's important to have some skin in the game, have time allocated towards that. And another piece of advice that I'd probably share with people is that the lower the barrier to entry, the more consistent you'll probably be, right? And so whether that's a drive that you make frequently, a self-help conversation with a company like BetterHelp or something like that. I know sometimes the advice hackers out there or the productivity hackers like to say, do the hardest task first and then the rest is easy. For me personally, I actually like the low-hanging fruit first.
Same.
I like making my bed, folding a little bit of laundry, letting the dog out, getting the cold plunge. And all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, I got some like little low wins that like built some momentum. And I think therapy is very similar to that. Like the program that works is the one that you do. Not the one that's like over romanticized that you did it one time. It costs you $1,000. You're like, man, that was the huge breakthrough, but I'm never going to do it again. So it's not going to last.
Or 3 months down the road, you don't have that same mentality and you go right back.
Everybody's all excited when they first get into something. I equate that to when I used to be a Costco member. I would go there and I'd buy all the goods and I'd be all excited. And then Sunday I would cook it all, or I'd cook a bunch of it. And then all of a sudden Thursday came around, it went to cook again. And I was like, Uber Eats, or what's more convenient, or, you know, what's some sort of leftover I can have. And then all the other shit that I bought, this just went bad. And I was like,
been there.
Oh, I suck.
It's hard to go 0 to 100. It's much easier to go 0 to 5 miles per hour versus like my stepdad. Love him. He's like a yo-yo dieter. He's like hardcore into it for a week or 3 weeks and then hardcore out. Hardcore in, hardcore out. So many people are like that because they get that motivation. They see that what's that crazy dude always running around? David Goggins.
Oh yeah.
Stay hard, blah, blah, motivation. But people don't have the discipline. They haven't built up those good habits. So going 0 to 5 versus 0 to 100 is a lot easier. Stacking good habits. Make that bed in the morning. Do these little things. Get these little wins, baby. Get them. And then boom, you can start hitting the bigger stuff. Start adding in. But yeah, going 0 to 100 in any lifestyle is not sustainable.
Yeah. What is something you did as a child that you no longer do as an adult? For many, that answer is play. RX Smart Gear allows for your daily workouts to turn into play and exploration. In my training, the Frevo rope gives me access to a versatile rope that I can take with me wherever I go. On the road, at the beach, to the park, or playing at home, RX Smart Gear jump ropes fit my needs. We at ALLSMITH trust RX Smart Gear. Their gear is always reliable and gives me peace of mind that I will have top-notch equipment to support my health and fitness journey. Hop on over to RX Smart Gear and use the discount code ALLSMITH to shop their latest cutting-edge gear. Have your gear work with you and not against you. Crazy. I want to throw something your way that I think is going to blow your mind.
Let's do it.
18 minutes a day.
Okay.
If you do a task 18 minutes a day, it equates to over 100 hours a year.
Wow.
If you perform a task for over 100 hours a year, you're actually in the top 95% in that particular thing.
Wow.
So when you think about that and the installation of habits for people, that can be 9 minutes in the morning, 9 minutes in the evening. That could be 2 or 3 doses of 3-minute intervals in different places, or 5 or 4-minute intervals. People can break that up however they want, but it needs to be non-distracted, 18 minutes in that task. That's a cheat code.
That's tough, honestly.
It is, but it's doable.
Yes, it is.
And so...
Isn't that sad? I just said that's tough.
It is, though. It is. Like, the quantification of time, very deep work that is focused to a craft, is hard in a very distracted world. You said that's tough because you're an honest man. You're not an honest man because you want something in return. It's because you choose to be honest, which is tough in a world that is distracting.
Yeah.
And the reason why I brought that up is where I want to go next with our conversation, Austin, is entrepreneurship. It's hard, man. Getting something off the ground, figuring out how you're going to fund it, figuring out systems and protocols, developing a team, having a generalized template, learning from mistakes, the power of rejection, and learning to be okay with it. trying to find people that align to the mission as much as you do, but nobody's going to care about your brand as much as you do. And then the creation of products. The first one's probably not as good as the current one. And it takes some time to get there, and then you see the dollars getting flushed down the toilet or tossed out the window. How did your entrepreneurship journey start?
Been there. Yeah, man, one foot in front of the other. You're talking about all those bumps in the road, and it's just like you got to stumble forward. You know, got to put one foot in front of the other, keep on trucking, dude, because you can either get tossed off by the wave or learn to ride it. You know, get a bigger board or smaller board and learn to ride that thing. Frick. When did my entrepreneurship journey start? Well, with Organic Jaguar, it started officially when I got laid off at a civil engineering job. And I started Organic Jaguar. I had the shower filters back in November of 2022. I got laid off last year in July of sometime, and then went full in on Organic Jaguar. I was like, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself. I want to create the best products, the best alternatives out there. I'm already talking about it. Why not create it? I don't see anything else out there. Might as well do it. If it's not me, who? So that's when my entrepreneurship journey started. When I was younger, I did other things like mow people's lawns, walk dogs, that kind of stuff for entrepreneurship. But that's how Organic Jaguar started, really. Was like I saw a problem and there wasn't a common answer. Like when I go to any big box store, Target, Walmart, etc., I see everything on the shelves, whether it's food, skincare related, it's 95% garbage. It's nuts. So I was like, okay, problem, answer. I got to freaking do the answer. And then, like I said, I got to fall forward, one foot in front of the other. Sometimes I don't know what my next day looks like, but it's a full day doing stuff of building a team or international shipping or what have you. It's like I just got to keep on going. And there is times where, you know, the fear of judgment or shipment problems or whatever, these problems happen, but I just got to keep on hitting it and keep on going. So, and it's
something
fun.
that I've really learned from watching you. Yeah, it's really fun, especially when you believe in the mission and you see it like helping people relatively quickly.
Love that.
But something that I've actually learned from watching you, when I first started this journey, I was like, oh, another problem, fire extinguisher. I was like freaking out about all the stress. And then I came to realize that fear is a mile wide but an inch deep. And all it means is you don't know that it's an inch deep until you take the first step. And you're like, oh, shit, this actually isn't as bad. Okay, I'm going to take the next step. All right, there's a problem. That's actually good because that means we're doing something. We're actually building momentum. What's the rule of the game? To keep playing. And it's like, it feels really fearful in the beginning, but I'm very confident in both yourself and myself that if it all failed, I could very easily, in the words of Alex Hermosi, I could go drive Uber or strip and make a decent living.
True, yeah, true. OnlyFans or whatever.
And so it's like, that's obviously not what I want to do, but I don't carry like a ton of shame in that either. It's one of those things where it's like you're providing a service and it's not the goal. The goal is to follow the mission that lights your heart on fire. And it sounds to me that you've found that with Organic Jaguar. How'd you come up with that name?
Yeah, I definitely found that. I'm super, super lucky because I feel like, dude, I mean, I was 30 years old when I found this, you know? So I tell my little brother, it's like, dude, I didn't know what I want to do for most of my life, which is crazy. Like originally military, and then I was a year into the Marine Corps. I'm like, oh, I'm definitely not going to be in this for life, dude. Like I wanted to be a 20+ year guy and retire from the Marine Corps 1 year, and I'm like, nope, this ain't for me. So I got to figure it out. And I never found something I loved until Organic Jaguar, and it's like helping other people and with products that make you happier and healthier. So it's really freaking cool. Organic Jaguar, honestly, because my favorite animal, my freaking spirit animal is a jaguar. I love it, man. It's the strongest bite per the cat kingdom. It's the only cat that can swim underwater. They're kind of like a lone wolf. Like they aren't in a pack. They're very like silent, like behind the scenes, but like deadly as fuck. Like they're a badass animal, dude. Like jaguars are so cool. And honestly, I was going to name my company like Happy and Healthy. I use those two terms a lot because they kind of correlate with each other. Like the more healthy you are, generally the more happy you are. And I couldn't find that domain. I just like searched up and down for it, and some people already took it or whatnot. And I was like, Jaguar, okay, love it. Love organic. Like that's kind of like how I live my life. Boom. Found the domain Organic Jaguar. was talking to Brendan, my buddy, Santa Cruz Medicinal. He's like, dude, people don't really care about the name as much. It's what you provide them. It's what value you give them. I'm like, you know what? You're right. Send it. So that's how I came up with Organic Jaguar.
That's
The
cool.
name, yeah.
I like that. Isn't it interesting how the domain name availability sometimes funnels the business entity process?
Yeah, that is funny.
Right?
Bro.
Like we have this big grandiose idea and fuck, it's not available. Dang
Yeah.
it, the Instagram name's taken.
Oh, man. For real, bro. For real.
You spend hours on like GoDaddy, like searching domain names.
Yeah.
You're like, fuck, I wasn't the first person to come up with this. I thought I was a genius.
I know. Oh, man. But, I mean, down to the root of it, it's like the value that I get to provide. It's really freaking cool.
For sure.
So it's fun. Love it.
What was the process of determining like the logo, the graphic design associated with it, the mission, and the values?
Yeah, with like the weird little tedious stuff, the logo, website, all that, it's like I learned as I go, or I went. I learned as I went. It's like, just like you said, fear's 1,000 miles wide, but an inch deep. And it's like, I didn't know what I was going to do until I put my next foot forward. And like the logo, the website, it all came together. I would hire local people, usually in San Diego, and for a graphic designer or website design, anything that I didn't want to learn like super strenuously, delegate. And
It's great advice.
yeah,
I've learned that the hard way. I try to do it all.
dude, honestly, man, I'm overwhelmed again, and I have a lot too much on my plate, and I need to do another round of delegation and hiring somebody and allocating money toward that. So it's like it comes in phases, bro. And I'm running lean right now again, so I gotta figure that out. But I forgot your original question.
Just trying to understand the origination. What's the mission and the values associated with Organic Jaguar?
Yeah, man. It's very similar to the mission is to create the best alternatives. My stuff is not the most affordable, but it's because I source the best freaking ingredients possible. Like, I don't want to get beat. It's because I use this product for myself, my family, people, loved ones that I see that have common problems with eczema, skin disorders. Like, I want to help my family and friends and myself. So I don't want to make a subpar product. I don't want to use a subpar product. Like I said, I have balance in a lot of areas, but now I have a little bit of money to where I can buy the really nice the perennial pastures, I used to not be able to even afford steaks, like it was ground beef, conventional, you know? Now I got to
Which
a
is a
point.
great alternative for people that are trying to eat well on a low
Totally.
budget, for sure.
Totally, and I don't want to rag on that. That's amazing.
No,
If
for
that's all
sure.
you can afford, that's what I was doing. So you got to do what you can with what you have. So yeah, man, I just want to provide the best alternatives out there, and that's it. And I really focus on human health and the earth too. The earth is a really big deal to me. I think the connection we have with the earth is really sacred, and I think we dole that out quite a bit. So I don't want to make a lot of products that are harmful for the earth, whether it's the waste of it, the production of it, the ingredients that are sourced from it. I want to make sure it is all sustainable. So
Yeah, that's
a
great.
lot of what you see is in glass or in paper, and sometimes I'm sure I'm going to have to produce like a plastic packaging of some sort, but dude, I try my best to be the best for the human and the earth. So
I like that it's beautiful, not just creating beauty on the inside of people, but you're paying attention to the outside of the packaging as well.
yeah,
And that's a great indicator for the brand. It doesn't just look good, but it operates well and with integrity from the inside.
and that's the biggest thing for me is the operation. Like, it might not look well. I'm a 30-year-old male that doesn't have the best aesthetic looking. Thank God I delegate things like design and packaging out, because there's no way I would have created that beautiful thing. It would have looked like somebody scribbled on the front of it, you know. So
But that's how it starts.
yeah, and function, really, man. Like, that is my highest priority, dude. So, and it's not the cost of goods. I don't want to be known as the cheapest. I want to be known as the best.
That's cool.
It's freaking fun. I love
I had somebody on recently, and he said, I don't just want to be the best. I want to be the only.
it. I love that
I thought
too.
that was
Yeah,
well
man.
said.
The capitalism thing. If you make a better product than me, it's going to enable me to want to make a better product. Unless most capitalism now down, make it cheaper, blah blah blah. Nah, dude. If you outcompete me, I want to then outcompete you. Like, the best and the only. I like that. I
Yeah,
like
that's a
that
cool
lot.
one. That's one of my goals every episode is like, man, you're delivering so much value. Hopefully I can give a couple of things
Oh.
your way too.
Bro, honestly, every single 5 minutes, bro, you are hitting like some quote, and I'm like, damn, that is good. That is sticking with me, dude. Like the 1,000 miles wide, 1 inch deep, bro. You're saying so many quotes that I'm like, I'm gonna have to go back, watch this, and write these down.
It'll
Like,
be
I
fun,
love
man.
it, bro.
Honestly, it's just listening to a lot of people that are doing cool things and trying to be a sponge and just absorbing and, oh, that's relevant here. Let's place that there.
Love it.
And just kind of tinkering and playing a little bit and
always learning.
Always. And like, that's what I try to share with people. People asked early on, you know, what's the vision and value system of ALLSMITH? And it's like, it started way, way back when my dad was going through brain cancer. But as it's transitioned, I'm like, wow, greatness is forged, not found. You have to go through adversity in pursuit of peak expression. And what I've come to realize is that somebody that is a smith is forging with an anvil under a ton of heat. And so it's like, oh, smiths build things. Smiths get the job done. We're actually all smiths.
Wow.
We're all forging ourselves every single day, overcoming peaks and valleys to try to get to what our vision is, this beautiful life. Yeah. And I genuinely do believe people are trying to do their best. They might be using cheaper ingredients, but I think they're justifying it in a way of trying to create a better product. And I think there just becomes a standard that you hold yourself to. And I think you can weigh and measure that, and you know, you can tinker with that as you may. But you're doing it, man. I've used a ton of your products, and I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I also like the efficiency of communication of like, what does this remove and what are the benefits?
I appreciate that.
And that's in bullet point form. So you're not like reading in the fine print and trying to find what the products do for you. I think that's incredibly important. And before we move on, man, I do want to go through your different products. I know you have a natural lotion, a sunblock, you have some toothpaste tablets, which I haven't seen before, which is really cool. And then we'll talk about my personal favorite, the organic cotton and the boxers and these beautiful shirts.
Nice, dude. Heck yeah. First, I love like the visual of the smith and beating the iron under a certain temperature and forging it. Like, that's really cool. That's the ALLSMITH thing. Like, thank you for sharing that. That's really freaking cool. I see that, and that's a beautiful thing. And iron sharpens iron. Yeah. That's something my senior drill instructor, I'm sure you heard of course, but that's one thing that's stuck with me. That's like, wow, like, you're so right. And like, men need other men. We need to keep on one-upping, not like in an egotistical way, one-upping each other, but like, let me help you do this. You help me do this. And like, let's keep on
ping
going.
Pong.
Yeah.
One of my favorite ways to say what you just said, and I think, I don't know if somebody came up with this before we did, but me and my high school point guard, and I used to say this all the time, game recognize game.
Yep, for sure.
That's a fun way to play with it a little bit. But let's jump in. The natural lotion. Yep. What's that all about, and what are the ingredients? Dude,
no, I do make the best skincare products, like without a doubt. I do. The lotion's amazing, dude. It's literally made of olive oil, water, raw honey, beeswax, essential oils, rosehip, and vitamin E oil.
Nice.
And all these, it's so deeply hydrating and nourishing for your skin. It's like a lot of big brand lotions that I use. It'll feel good for like the first hour of the night. Then I feel like I need to reapply. Like, my skin's just as dry again. And this makes my tattoos look really good and moisturizes me all day. Like, I feel really good with it. And your boy has some ashy knees, like, for sure. For a white boy, dude, it's pretty wild. And honestly, this makes it look a lot better, dude. So it feels good. It's not too sticky. I used to use just coconut oil, and that was really sticky. And then, dude, formulated
probably gets all over your sheets and stuff too.
Yeah, and like leather in the car. You know, you put your elbows on it, and you pick it up, and it's like super shiny. It's like not this stuff. This body lotion's a killer, man. And making a baby lotion soon, dude. Baby products are just as bad as adult.
Yeah, they're tough.
And guess who owns all the baby products? Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble. Yeah. These mega conglomerates that don't give a hoot about us. They care about this. They got some big money people they're in meetings with every day trying to pinch a penny.
Do you think they started that way, or do you think that happened over the course of time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it happened over the course of time, and then just human psychology, the greed, the money signs.
Yeah,
it's a
tough.
Devilish thing. It's wild, yeah, and especially if you're not passionate about it and all you care is the money, the bottom dollar, then it's easy to just look at numbers all day and not look at people. Just like be dull to it.
I got another quote for you. You're going to love this one. I hope I don't bastardize it. All that's measured can't be counted, but all that counts can't always be measured.
Ooh. Okay, say that again.
All that's measured can't always be counted, and all that counts isn't always measured. And what I mean by that, I don't know who exactly said that, but what I mean by that is like, you can't necessarily measure, oh, that baby has a higher quality of life. Their biomarkers are better. They're getting, less heat rashes, less stomach pains, and less irritability and crying less. That's tough to measure. Those are feelings. But it's easy to measure. This is how many bottles of this particular lotion were sold. And that's where it gets challenging, because a lot of our world's like, oh, that made more sales, it's better. And this whole better or worse conversation. But a lot of the actuality within the critical thinking sphere is in gray matter. It's in the gray area, which is tough to just be like, that's the thing that I do. It's like, well, it kind of depends. And that gets the human mind dancing, because modern education was built for the Industrial Revolution. Do these things, Austin, and then we're going to produce product, and you'll do that for 8 hours, and then you'll go home. And it's using the measuring system, the quantification of the 8-hour workday, to then quantify your work ethic or the power of a product. But modern day entrepreneurs might have some days where they work 16 hours, and they have other days where they might work 6, and they have other days where they might work none. What matters is that you're doing the thing that aligns with the mission. You're trying to create the most optimal product, but that's not always measurable, and it's not always sexy or like beautiful on a spreadsheet.
Love that quote, man. That is a beautiful quote. Yeah. Oftentimes people that only look at the numbers aren't looking at the tangibles that need to be seen.
For sure. And that doesn't like bring down the value of the numbers. When running a business, you need to know sales. You need to know numbers. Like, they are something. They are a very valuable indicator of like, are we doing the right things? Are we moving the needle in the right direction? And obviously you need them for cash flow and to keep the business running. But they're not everything.
Yeah, they're not. They're not. Have you heard of Simon Sinek?
Yeah, one of my favorites. Start with why.
Yep. That's exactly. I wonder what Johnson & Johnson's why is. I wonder what their mission statement is. And even if it's a BS one, it's like, okay, well, you're not following that, or I don't know. It's funny, but it allows me, a person like me, to come in and have a better alternative. So I am grateful for it at the end of the day. But yeah, always start with your why, for sure, and the numbers will come.
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's also incredibly brave to do so.
Yeah,
because you get a lot of backlash. Have you experienced that at all from, people that view you maybe polarizing, that might throw some shade your way? And how do you manage that? And personally, I've always been taught, like, stay out of the comments.
Right.
And like, be careful with your DMs.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I get a lot of hate, especially on TikTok, dude. And it's funny. It's like a lot of what I see is really simple and just back to the roots. It's like I don't say a lot of mind-blowing stuff or like anti this. It's just like, it's kind of simple and natural what I say, but I still get a lot of hate. I still get a lot of people that probably consume a lot of tap water and soy hitting me back in the comments, and it's quite funny. But sometimes that was tough for me at the beginning of the journey, of the posting journey, was getting over what other people thought of me and knowing that it's a direct correlation to how they're feeling if they're reaching out and lashing out in a bad, negative way. It's like, okay, they must be going through something to write a negative comment, because I've never had a hater doing better than me. Never had a hater doing better than me. So like, and it's funny, the people that leave nasty comments, 0 followers or like 10 posts and like 100, like, bro, what are you doing, dude? It's like some like teenage TikToker in Indiana. Like, it's funny.
Keyboard warriors are typically not forward facing.
No, not at all.
Right? They're typically like hating, but at the very least, you're putting content out that has relevancy to that moment in time. And also you're genuinely trying to put out good.
Yeah.
And I think going back to the lifelong learner conversation, it's like, you may change stance on something based on getting more educated on that particular topic later on. You'll be like, hey, I formerly or previously thought this. Now I currently, have realized this is actually a better choice, and here's why. And I think that is part of the evolution of the human experience. Yes. It's like, if we're the same 10 years from now that we are right now, like, we're doing the shit wrong.
Not good. Yep. So yeah, I get way more love than hate, believe me. But it's funny how that one comment, the negative one, will like stick out. But no, I'm so grateful of the value that I'm able to add to other people's lives. But yeah, I used to take it to heart. Now I don't at all. Sometimes I clap back. It's quite funny because a lot of my like community will like it or like agree to it or whatever. But Yeah, a lot of times I just breeze past it, and it is what it is. So
Yeah. Let people say what they want to say. As
Yeah.
long as you're married to your why,
Mm-hmm.
you understand that you're trying to do things that align with what you set out to do. I also, going back to that comment around negativity, it's interesting. One of my favorite questions for people are like, hey, what was the best part of your day? And sometimes you get the response of like, today sucked. And then you get to respond with, did today suck, or did a few specific moments suck? And negativity bleeds that way. It's very loud. It seems to grasp hold of our brain and our heart and our emotions a little bit. But if we are able to remove expectation, lean into appreciation, to quote the famous Tony Robbins, it kind of highlights the gratitude moments. Like if you're going to highlight the bad, you also have to highlight the good. You can't just be on one side of the coin without acknowledging the other. It's like, you know what? I had a bad day, didn't make sales, client calls were tough, my knee was hurting, couldn't do X, Y, and Z. But I woke up with a roof over my head. I was safe. I had running water, and I got a great text from a friend. Right? Maybe they're not massive wins for everybody, but there are moments in time that a lot of people in the world don't have that. It's important to, at the very least, acknowledge those things too, in hope for a better tomorrow.
Yep. And I feel like the more we look at gratitude, the more we're attracted to it, the more things get brighter, for sure. In our human psychology, I think primarily we're geared a little more negative, because it's like if we're in this room or we're outside and there's a bear or there's a body of water that we need to drink, it's like that bear is way more alarming because it could kill us versus like the ancillary thing. It's like we're geared toward that negative thing. Like it's like almost like a dopamine hit, but it takes work to like get out of that. And the more I do gratitude, the more I'm more grateful of life and the little things, and I'm able to like pick out more of the mundane things that day that I kind of breeze through. That simple coffee, that morning sun on the skin. It's like the more I'm in the gratitude, the more I'm in it, the more I'm positive.
Yeah, for sure. So jumping into another controversial topic, we've talked a lot about sunlight. Yeah.
Let's do it.
I love sunlight. I feel better. I kind of joke that, maybe I'm some sort of green plant because photosynthesis seems to work well. Like being in sunlight just feels good. It puts me in a good mood, body, mind, soul. But then there's the conversation around, is that cancer causing? Right? And you create a natural sunblock. How much is too much? What are your educational thoughts around, what is the skin cancer called?
Melanoma.
Melanoma. My grandfather actually passed away from that. So it's like, how much is too much?
Totally.
And how does the sunblock kind of help, and what's the ingredient profile?
Yeah, man. That's so dependent on the person's genetics and epigenetics, and then what they're currently eating. That plays a role in how much sun, the vitamin D that they can intake, and then synthesize through their body. So it's so dependent, but I think it's crucial that any human being gets 5 to 10 minutes of morning sun or some type of sunlight during the day. Now, where we go wrong is where we're in the direct sun for hours on end without any sort of protective clothing. And then if you're eating a high inflammatory diet and a lot of seed oils, your body does not process the sun well. This has just been shown, it's been proven. So it's really all around about what we eat. And then there's so many other things that result in melanoma or skin cancer. It's not just the sun. It's also what we eat, the forever chemicals that are around us, the tap water. There's so much other environmental factors that do play into how our body synthesizes vitamin D, how our body synthesizes UVA and UVB rays. So why I made this is because, once again, big brand sunscreen, there's a whole bunch of BS in what they got. Oxybenzone, homosalate, octisalate. These are all active ingredients that have been proven to have unsafe blood levels just even after one use. Also, oxybenzone kills our reef. Growing up, dude, I was so stoked to like scuba dive and go to the Great Barrier Reef to see the extremely colorful, rainbow-esque coral reef and all the fish and all that. Dude, if you look at the Great Barrier Reef now, it's mostly gray. It's pulled all the color. It's killed all the coral. And that's because of oxybenzone in our sunscreen that's getting in the ocean and getting swirled around. Pretty sad, bro. And yeah, you go to CVS, you go to Walmart or Target, whatever, 90% of the sunscreen is going to be chemical based. It's going to have oxybenzone. Even the natural ones have BS in them. So once again, I went out to make the best product in that category. And this is grass-fed beef tallow, shea butter, olive oil, non-nano zinc oxide, carrot oil, the essential oils, and a couple other things that have natural occurring SPF in it. But the non-nano zinc oxide is reflecting the rays off of your skin. It's acting as like a shield, like a barrier between your skin and the sun. How chemical-based sunscreens work is they are absorbed by the bloodstream. They literally go in your epidermis, in your pores, and in your bloodstream, and then the sun hits your skin, is absorbed in your bloodstream, and then it's dispersed throughout your blood by the way of this chemical sunscreen, which is pretty mind-blowing, bro. You're literally, a chemical is inside your body dispersing the vitamin D out.
Yeah.
Versus if you just have a natural barrier on it, like non-nano zinc oxide or protective clothing. Protective clothing's the best, dude. If you're super pale, haven't seen the sun since freaking winter because you live in Chicago, go outside with a long sleeve on, you know? Maybe you have your face exposed or whatever. But chemical, big brand sunscreens is not where it's at, dude. It's not. And then the spray ones, the propellant inside them is harmful for us. I see people dousing their kids up. Dude, what are we doing, man? This is scary, bro. This is all endocrine disrupting, reproductive system disrupting. We're on a pace right now that if we don't change things around by 2040, we're estimated to have 0% fertility. 0% fertility. And this is just like on the track that we're on with like how many miscarriages are happening, how men can't produce sperm, women don't have fertile eggs, all these environmental factors, these xenoestrogens, these phthalates, fragrances, all these things. I know I sound wild right now, but all these things play a part into the overall vitality of us human beings. We're not meant to be around all these chemicals, this stimulus, this stress. It's wild.
It's
dude.
never just one thing.
No.
Right? It's a series or a collection of things. And I really appreciate you educating myself and our community on a lot of these things. Peptides. There's been a lot of buzz about peptides and what they can do for the body, skin, muscles, and health. What exactly are they? And do they live up to the hype? Your body makes peptides. They are strings of amino acids, which are the building blocks of proteins. Peptide therapy involves using prescription-based peptides to help treat and manage a variety of health conditions to maximize performance. Peptides consist of 2 to 50 amino acids and are made naturally in the body to act as important signaling molecules for many physiological and cellular functions. There are over 7,000 known functions of peptides in the body, and adequate levels in the body are imperative for performing at optimal levels. Discover a transformative journey to optimal well-being with Live Peptides. Live Peptides offer a natural and effective approach to health support. Embrace the difference. Choose Live for a path to vitality that prioritizes quality, innovation, and your unique wellness goals. My personal favorite is BPC 157 with thymosin beta for optimizing gut health, tissue regeneration, and healing. Head over to livenatural.com and use code ALLSMITH for 20% off peptides. That's livenatural.com with discount code ALLSMITH for 20% off peptides. I do want to push back on one thing and then also highlight something. You've said a lot, hey, it's proven. And I think a lot of doctors reference studies. Mm-hmm. I'm one of those people that don't really trust the study because I'm like, who's funding it? But whose pocket is the money going into? So I'm curious your thoughts. Like, how do you filter and decide which research to trust versus which research not to trust? And how do you decide these ingredients are good versus those ingredients?
It's so tough for the studies, man, because like you said, I can almost find for almost everything a study that goes with it and goes against it. And it's like, okay, who's funding it? Then I go back to, okay, scrap the freaking studies. Humans, how has our performance been with these certain types of environmental factors, and then when they're introduced, and then what happened? And then what happened in history? So it's like, scrap the studies. How have human performance developed with such things? So, yeah, and then it's tough. It's tough with studies. Yeah, you can go on PubMed.com and figure out like maybe who it's funded by, maybe not. There might be a little curtain behind that. Pretty crazy. So that's kind of tough. It's like,
that's why, me personally, I love the trial and error. I love leaning towards single ingredient products or limited ingredient products. When I shop the grocery store, typically I'm shopping the perimeter of the grocery store mostly.
Yep.
If things come out of a bag or a box, I'm typically not consuming it. There are some general rules of thumb that can kind of steer you in the right direction. It's not perfect, but I definitely am eyebrow raised and a little bit defensive when I hear people say, according to this study, and it's like, man, correlation doesn't lead to causation.
Right.
Who's associated with the study? What are you selling? And I think there's so many different variables that lead to, is this a marketing strategy? And modern day consumer, modern day American in the state of society, if they hear according to this doctor, or if they hear according to this study, all of a sudden there's reputability. And then if you don't have the title, right? Our world loves titles, doctor this or, lawyer that. All of a sudden they're like, what's your reputability? You don't have the education. But I know a lot of doctors that I love and care about that went to school and said, wow, I got educated on big pharma. I got educated on legalities. I got educated on understanding appropriate documentation. And I realized that the majority of my nutrition and general health care things that I learned in med school are going to change so rapidly that everything I learned back then is either outdated or relatively false.
Yep.
That's a pretty big blanket statement. Not everything in there. If somebody pulls a snippet and pulls it out of context, like, okay.
It's relative, though.
It is, right? And it's like, I think these are conversations that should be had. And the reason why I bring it up is like, I very much admire the information that you're putting out and the education that you're putting out. And quite frankly, if I didn't, I'd also tell you that.
Yeah, love it.
But Paul Saladino is putting out some really awesome stuff too. And he is a doctor. He's a doctor of psychiatry,
Right.
which isn't necessarily a nutritionist. So all of a sudden he gets ripped by a lot of people. He does use different studies to try to create buy-in. But at the end of the day, the blood doesn't lie. When I see the health biomarkers of a lot of people that are tinkering with a relatively ketogenic or paleo-ish style of nutrition, they're moving better, they're feeling better, their blood health markers are better. Maybe I'm biased, and I'm not really sure why. Maybe that's
I don't think so.
the direction of my algorithm. But I'm like, something according to my pattern recognition is like, this feels more primal before the onset of agriculture and all these other things that led to mass production.
It's like if we get back to our roots. It's kind of what I say in simple. It's like, get back to our roots, and then we'll find a way. It's like, you can't really go wrong eating whole foods. It's like Paul Saladino kind of demonized a lot of vegetables. It's like, dude, if you're pretty well balanced, you're going to be freaking way healthier than the average American.
Yeah.
Dude, the average American's obese, not overweight, obese. That's not good. So if you're just eating back to our roots, back to whole foods, simplifying things, you're going to be so much healthier than the majority of the population. It's pretty crazy. And it's like, me and you are kind of getting into the weeds about things, but we're super far advanced, so far advanced from the average American. Dude, they're still just in this unconscious cycle of life and just consuming like these flashy marketing brands and getting whatever looks good or most convenient. It's like, we're way far ahead, dude. It's like, just as a society, if we got back to kind of our primal roots, a little bit of sun, a little more movement, a little bit of eating healthier foods, we'd be so much better off.
I love that, man.
So much better off.
Well, let's conclude our conversation today. Let's talk about your organic cotton boxers.
Yeah,
and
boy.
Some of the merch that you're coming out with.
Yep, I got them on. That's all I wear. Well, dude, I just want to say that polyester clothing, and it kind of stinks sometimes. I feel like a lot of my content is kind of negative. I feel like I'm like fear mongering, and I don't like that. I'm a positive person. I want to like show off positive stuff, but it's like when I realize something's bad for me, I kind of want to harp on it. So like polyester underwear, for instance, hate to say this, but there's been studies that have shown, and there really has been studies that have disproven it, that polyester and synthetic material and material derived from petroleum is not good to be on our genitals all day. And men and women, it's shown a decrease in fertility and overall hormone production. So things that are of natural linen, cotton, bamboo, these are really important to have on our genitals. Yeah, I have freaking some poly blend shorts, but what's on my nuts is freaking organic cotton that wasn't sprayed in any pesticides, that is grown in America, that you're supporting a veteran-owned business. It's all good stuff. And yeah, I just want to harp on the fact that polyester clothes, man, is not it. That's why these organic cotton t-shirts, big deal for me. I wear either organic cotton t-shirts like this or my buddies' brands that I like believe in.
Yeah.
You know, people I want to support, homies. And then that's it, dude. That's all, you know, that's all I wear. I don't have any designer.
It's cool that you said that too, because one of the advice pieces that I forgot to mention when we were on the topic of nutrition is buying local is kind of cool too.
Love it.
Because then it's not transported. And if it's not transported, it's more locally sourced, it's probably a little bit higher in nutrient density. Not always.
Right.
But oftentimes. So shopping your local farmers markets and getting things that are close to home, investing and spending, you know, your money, you know, the dollar donation that we talked about to help enhance the tribe. And I think that's one of the things that I really appreciate about Liver King. I know we can, you know, talk all things about Liver King and the PED use and all that, but
generally what he says is good, by the way.
Some of his 9 ancestral tenets are badass.
Yep.
And then the one that I really like kind of goes hand in hand is just bonding.
Yes.
And the tribal connection. That's another one that, going back to the phones, is a little bit of a lost art. Like, it's pretty dope to like get a collection of friends, and then, you know, you have a campfire, you're sharing in food, or maybe you're playing games or having depth in conversation, sharing about your life, or your kids are playing together. That's one that I very much appreciate that sometimes gets lost and is always has to be paired with like drinking or some sort of negative activity, but it doesn't have to be.
No, not at all. Get back to freaking barbecues, you know, and throwing the frisbee or surfing with each other. I mean, that's what I do with my buddies, dude. I love it, bro. It's like, and that's so rare nowadays, is that tribe, is that friend group, is that getting together, that communal piece. We're human beings, dude. We are meant to be around each other and to support each other and hear each other out and listen to problems and give maybe answers if they want it, and just like be here for each other, dude.
Yeah, totally.
And so many people are separate and disconnected. And the more connected we are to freaking technology, I feel like the more disconnected we've gotten. And it's scary, but dude, I love having real conversations in person, hanging out, dude. And like, dude, sometimes I'm bad, bro. I'll be with friends and I'll be on my phone, and I'll recognize, I'll be like, what am I doing, bro? Like this can wait. I don't need to do that. So yeah, man, I think getting back to our roots, dude, like being with each other and just talking and having fun and one-upping each other and being a little rough as men and like getting each other to the next level is so important.
Yeah, I love that, man.
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on cell phone in the pocket? You mentioned, you know, the barrier with the organic cotton boxers. Cell phone in pocket. What?
I'll just put it this way: it can't be good. There's no positive benefit, so it's like it can't be good. So one thing I do, dude, if I'm having my phone in my pocket for a while, I'm going on a walk, and I need to have my phone, I'll put on airplane mode. So at least in some fashion, it's reducing the EMFs. Another big thing: I do not sleep next to my phone. It's either in the living room or it's 10 feet away from me on airplane mode. No one needs to contact me at 2 a.m. Turn that thing on airplane mode. Forget about it. Being next to your head or having stimulus next to your head or the notifications going off, not good. We need to be disconnected in some sort of fashion. So that's a really big deal for me. But yeah, walking with it, having it near you. I don't know of any support to this, but I manually turn off my Bluetooth and Wi-Fi on my phone. You can pull down the screen and you can click the little blue button to make it go gray. That's not turning it off fully. It's still searching for nearby Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. So I go in the settings, click Wi-Fi off, click Bluetooth off. I don't know how much big of a deal it is, but it took me 6 seconds to do. Screw it. I'm going to do it. It's just the little things, man, that add up most likely. So, yeah. But the EMF thing, man, that's a big deal, dude. And I think we're not going to realize the amount of radiation, the 5G, the Wi-Fi, all these detrimental effects till later on down the road. Yeah. So I kind of want to be ahead of the game. So, and that's why grounding is a big deal. Getting our bare feet connected to dirt, sand, whatever, like releasing a little bit of negative ions for 5 minutes a day is a really big deal, dude. So, yeah.
I love that, man. I have a couple last minute questions. I want you to try to answer in a couple words or a couple sentences. Okay. So with this being the ALLSMITH project, you know, it's about forging yourself through adversity. What's the greatest bit of adversity that you've ever overcome?
I mean, yeah, easily Marine Corps, for sure, without a doubt. Yeah, physical and mental. And then I would say after that, 2 to 3 years of heavy inner work, of really getting to know myself and getting over my my self blocks that I've created or have told myself most of my life. So those Those two things.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The deep dive in inner work and the Marine Corps.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Whew. Wow. God dang.
I love that one. It always gets people to think at the end of our conversations.
Best piece of advice, dude. There's so many. I feel like it's never too late to change. Whether like whatever path you're on, like if you're going down a negative path or you've been doing something and you know you don't like it or I don't like it, it's like I can always change that. And it's like I'm never a victim to my own actions. I can always change it the next day. There's a new hour, there's a new day. Like I don't need to get stuck in the unconscious repetitive pattern that my own brain or my own ego has led me to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, damn, dude, I wish I had more time to like really contemplate that because
we'll rip on it in the next few weeks.
Yeah, okay.
I like saying it every moment is an opportunity to begin again.
Is that your? I was gonna ask.
I like that one.
Okay.
I like the gentle reset. I think my favorite one is be unrealistic. I love this podcast because I get to connect with trailblazers. What you're doing hasn't been done before. You're basically metaphorically taking a machete and carving your own path up the damn mountain.
Yep.
And it's honorable, it's scary, it's fearful. Sometimes you want to cry, sometimes you want to laugh, sometimes you want to share, sometimes you just want to be silent.
I do all that.
And it brings on the all-encompassing, fully embodied human experience. And so I really appreciate that when it was shared with me, like be unrealistic. It doesn't have to be the way it's always been done.
That's cool, man. I love that.
If you don't do, or if you always do what you've always done, you'll always be what you've always been. Right? And that kind of summarizes both of ours, kind of in a nutshell. Austin, where can people find you?
Before that, I just want to say if there's one word that has changed my life or my dad taught me from a really young age, dude, is perseverance. Just keep on putting one foot in front of the other. Keep on knocking. Keep on. I remember when I was like 12 years old and I had a little motorized scooter and like my dad didn't really know mechanics and I was figuring it out, but I couldn't get this bolt off, man. And it, swear to God, it was like 3 hours into this freaking bolt, getting different tools and trying to yank on it. And he's just like preaching to me like, you can do this, dude. Perseverance. You'll get it. And dude, sure enough, like an hour later, I freaking got that bolt off. And like, that's just stuck with me, man. Like I might not have like a favorite quote right now, but the word for me and the way I've lived my life is perseverance. Just keep on freaking going.
What I also love about it is the story ideation associated with it.
Hell yeah.
And that's what comes when you do the inner work is you have a word that then unlocks stories that then lead to conversation and sharing. And vulnerability breeds vulnerability.
Yes. I love that, dude. I'm all about vulnerability.
Was there something that you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask today? I always love exploring that a little bit. Is there something that I didn't touch on?
Dude, I think we touched on so much, which I'm so grateful, bro. I think we had such a good conversation. I love getting to know you. And, dude, you have so much insights. I'm so grateful to sit here with you, brother. I'd say we hit it, bro. We hit that big farm. We hit the nutrition. We hit the studies, the Super Bowl, the inner work. Man, we hit all the things, dude. That's for sure. But what's wild, bro, is I know that you and I could go into each one of those topics for another 3 hours plus just in that just in that concentrated topic, and there's so much other stuff to talk about. But dude, right now I think we hit a lot of the things that I have a good handle on and expertise in, and so grateful for you to have me on, brother. I really appreciate it, dude, and stoked to get to know you better and to keep on sharpening each other, bro.
Yeah.
And I am man, I'm super grateful for our lives and the way we're heading, and grateful that you're a part of my life. I'm a part of yours, man. So
likewise,
thank you
man.
for having
this
me
was
on,
fun.
Dude.
This was cool.
This
Where can people find you?
Yeah, man. I'm Organic Tarzan on all the socials, and then my company is Organic Jaguar. We make the best skincare and all other products too. So we're getting there. Organic cotton clothes, come on.
I love it, man. Guys, if you enjoyed my conversation with Austin, the Organic Tarzan, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And remember, greatness is forged, not found. Until next time.